Why exactly am I so happy driving one of the worst EVs on the road? Am I though? Fact of the matter is that when it comes to the car that you end up choosing, wherever they score on some arbitrary chart will still have to be weighed against your use scenario, possibly your financing situation, or when you actually sit in the car and interact with the screens, or wherever they have the different buttons for different functions, you may find that your personal preferences have you lead one way or another. So getting into the ranking of these different EVs, I've chosen these EVs simply because they're similar in size, and I think mostly similar in range, and there's very little in between them. All of these are going to be good EVs, great EVs. Things that I did on this comparison are, when I'm considering their range, I am going ahead and using their what you'd call their one-stop range. If you're going to road trip an EV, and be honest with yourselves, how frequently do you take those trips longer or over 300 kilometers? I only do it a couple times a year. I've been able to comfortably drive around Atlantic Canada in the winter with the existing infrastructure in the 2023 Ford Mach-E Select with the standard range battery, which is about 70 kilowatt hours usable. And on those trips, I've been to Moncton without using DC fast chargers, and I have been to Halifax and back using DC fast chargers and needing to stop an average of 1.5 times on depending on the leg of the trip. That was over 700 kilometers. Other people may find that they take 1,000 kilometer round trips. That's going to really change what vehicles work for you. I am a realist, and the numbers have to speak for themselves. I will be the first to say that hybrids make a lot of sense in a fleet calculation. The honest truth is, for the same amount of battery that's in an EV, you could build 5 hybrids. But the fact of the matter is, not everyone is going to be convinced to drive a hybrid. I enjoyed our hybrid that we do have. It's a 2021 Ford Escape, and that car is great. But what I find is, for what I wanted to do, which was more gasoline elimination than mitigation, right? A hybrid is a great way to mitigate your fuel use. I really just dislike the idea of needing to go for fuel, knowing that I had an option for my car to recharge at home. Touching on that note, it is a sore point for me that if you're a renter, for example, it's a lot more difficult for you to have access to overnight level 2 charging at home. It actually doesn't take very long to install level 2 chargers. We're an electric based society. There's already these wires everywhere, and yeah, the utilities will have to find a way to keep up. But the fact of the matter is, electricity is as convenient as gas is. Recharging with electricity at home is as convenient as going to gas stations is on a road trip. Knowing what the cars can do with those long distance trips, focusing on the daily driving, going from home to school, from home to work, to the grocery store, to the gym, etc. Those shorter jumps that you might do several times a day, 90% of the year. Looking at that capability when you no longer need to go to a gas station when you get to charge at home, it's irrefutable how convenient driving an EV is. That being said, let's look at the numbers for these EVs, and starting with the bottom is the Nissan Ariya. The next car up the list is the Subaru Solterra. The next car on our list is the Mustang Mach-E. Are you surprised? Following that, we have the Volkswagen ID4. Moving into the top 3 now is the Kia EV6. Oh, that's a really sexy car. I really liked that car since launch. Number 2, Hyundai Ioniq 5. Number 1, Chevy Blazer EV. Okay, that being said, now that we have a pecking order, if you will, things like reliability issues long term are going to have to come into play. Again, how much do you actually like the styling and different feature sets from those manufacturers? What else? How much does the cargo space and arrangement and the noises and the dings work for you? So there's going to be other things, insurance, etc., that come into play for the EV that actually works the most for you. But let's look into these readings and discuss why these EVs are sorted the way that they are in this list. So the Nissan Ariya scores are really mostly impacted by what I'd call the off-road performance, where it's lower to the ground and front wheel drive, and its sporty performance with its fairly comparatively lethargic 7.5 seconds, again with the front wheel drive characteristics. Otherwise, you'll see that this car is super efficient, but its cargo practicality and its DC charging speed really do affect its cargo practicality and its long distance usability compared to some of the top cars in this list. So next, looking at the Subaru Solterra, it does have pretty strong numbers all around, but the long distance usability of this vehicle, given its really slow DC charging, is what's most disappointing. I'm a Subaru fan. I loved my Impreza. I was really wanting this Solterra when I knew I wanted an EV next, especially with the all-wheel drive, and I knew how cushy that ground clearance and floaty suspension would be. Lower. It was, although I know I'm going to be a city type of driver, the slow DC charging there, and again the impacted range versus the efficiency and battery size for what it is as an all-wheel drive, especially Subaru all-wheel drive platform. It's super efficient for what it is, but overall it's just not great at road trips, and it needs to really maybe benefit from that Toyota solid state battery technology that's on the way. So you might be surprised that the vehicle that I drive is so low on this list. When it comes to its long distance usability, I'm super happy with it. I've been able to go in winter to the cities that I am most likely to road trip to, and I have videos posted of that. And the efficiency, the real world efficiency there, looking at it at winter is something that I can vouch for, and I have the video that shows that winter efficiency of 26 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. During the summer, that efficiency on the highway is closer to 22 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers when I took my first road trip in the summer. Cargo practicality, no other vehicle right now besides a Tesla really has quite the usable frunk. Ford knocked it out the park with the design of incorporating the frunk with the rest of their design language. Its sporty performance is obviously there. It's more stiffly sprung than I would like, but when it's soaking up bumps at speed on the highway, it is a lot better. I have the smaller rims, which really helped it with its off-road practicality and performance. And again, I have a video of me in the vehicle going up a really snowy path. There's a reason I use snow tires in the winter. Next is a really strong vehicle here, the Volkswagen ID4, in terms of a get in and go kind of car. That's what they were aiming for. They went with wanting to be a very simple to use type of EV where it still coasts and rolls. There's no one pedal braking to faff around with at all in that car. Nothing that's really gimmicky, just a nice smooth electric experience in that car. When it comes to the ID4, I have a colleague who drives the ID4 Pro all-wheel drive with the large battery, and I also have two colleagues that drive Ford Mustang Mach-E's with the all-wheel drive, and as well a colleague that drives the Ford F-150 Lightning. And the EV community is only growing. There's a lot who have hybrids and plug-in hybrids. So, but if you're not road tripping the car, even those options that I've spoken of already would be more than sufficient, and they're more powerful than the gas car you'd probably be replacing them with here or there, more or less. But when it comes to refueling them level 2 at home, they're just super cheap to run. DC charging has its place in emergencies and road trips, but if you only have to rely on a DC charger, that should have to change. Right, so when you get into the long range vehicles now, you're looking at the Kia EV6 and the Hyundai Ioniq 5. These vehicles have really strong efficiency, really strong cargo practicality. These sister vehicles, similar performance, similar off-road ground clearance, and they're also more sporty because of that rear-wheel drive dynamic. But Hyundai and Kia, they just knocked it out the park with the recharge, with the recharging in these vehicles. They will go on and juice up faster than pretty much everything else out there until you start to talk about Porsches. So they're really useful for DC fast charging and road trips because they just suck up juice. And the newest one on the block, I think, on this list might be the Chevy Blazer EV. I am seeing more Arias around town now. I haven't seen as many Chevy Blazer EVs in the wild yet, but it's a really strong car. Chevrolet did what I'd call the big battery approach. So it might not be the most efficient, but this car has really great efficiency on top of that. And it has a really strong DC charging rate, and it has really strong cargo practicality and sport performance. It's fast as heck, and its ground clearance, as you can see, is really up there in the middle of the pack as well. The Mach-E is actually quite low to the ground versus the Subaru Solterra, which is the highest off the ground. You buy the car that you like. I really wanted to go for, personally, that low ground clearance dynamic because they just don't have the hatchbacks yet out that are EVs, but they're coming, and this Mustang Mach-E is sort of a real kind of lifted hatchback.